Part 1. The Arrival. After many years of long searches, Adana finally tracked down her quarry to one of the major port towns of Sembia, a city called Saerloon. Speaking of Adana, she belongs to a race of half-orcs, a combination of humans and orcs. Her tan skin has a green hue to it, giving off her orcish heritage. The piercing green eyes and tall stature, as well as the noticeable underbite and slightly exposed lower canines, give her an intimidating look, which Adana has resorted to not once in the recent years. Ever since her coming of age, she had to survive the harsh realities of the world alone, and thus taught herself quite a few things, some considered dubious. She arrives in Saerloon on a windy yet warm autumn morning. The whole city is enclosed with high stone walls that sport battlements all across them, dotted with an occasional tower. The gates open to reveal a busy city of high stone buildings with steep roofs and tall windows, something that is representative of the wealth in the city. Indeed, being situated on the shore of the Sea of Fallen Stars, where many kingdoms' ships conduct their trade, Saerloon has grown to become a major trade hub. Numerous caravans and cargo vessels come and go each day, contributing to the city's commerce. The pointed arches, stained glass windows, numerous tall spires and flank buttresses, as well as the occasional sculpture of a gargoyle nested atop a roof, are an architectural characteristic of the nation of Sembia that Saerloon is a part of. Before her arrival, Adana arranged a meeting with one Diana Claybrook, who was paid in advance to conduct an investigation on Adana's quarry while she was on the road. The meeting is supposed to take place at an establishment called Lady Ray's, an inn that is reserved only for women, or those that may successfully disguise themselves as women. Deciding to not waste any time, Adana makes her way through the bustling and humid streets of Saerloon towards her destination. Upon arrival, she finds the ground floor of Lady Ray's, which is a small tavern, half empty. One patron is at the bar, while several others occupy 2 of the 5 tables. Her contact does not seem to be present. Adana approaches the barkeep, a woman in her 40s, possibly Madame Ray herself, books a room for the upcoming 10-day, as well as orders a meal and proceeds to her room. After putting down most of her luggage, which involves a full backpack and a few pouches strapped to the belt, she is called by one of the maidens to the tavern. Her meal is ready, and she sits down at the table furthest from everyone else and proceeds to eat. When she is close to finishing it up, the doorbell rings and a person walks in. A human woman in probably her late 30s, middle-length curly black hair, sculpted features, pale skin. She is wearing a dark brown leather coat of good quality. She scans the room from the threshold and, stopping at Adana, begins to approach her. Adana steps from her seat and moves towards the newcomer in response. Good day. Are you Adana? Am I correct?
Good day. Why do you think I am Adana?
Your look matched the description of a person who contacted me a few weeks ago, and we agreed to meet in this establishment.
Can I know your name?
Of course. I am Diana Claybrook.
Then you are the one who I was waiting for. I am Adana. Nice to meet you.
Exceptional. Should we take a seat?
Sure.
Both proceed to the table and sit down. Diana throws one leg over the other and leans back on the table, situating herself very leisurely. She takes out a pipe from the pocket of her coat and lights it up. Well, how has arriving to the city been? Have you got a chance to visit some of the prominent landmarks?
No, I just managed to arrive and had time to only rent a room before you came.
I see. In that case, let me start with what I managed to find. First of all, not having a name, it was pretty hard tracking the person, but I have found out that his name is Tobias Noak. He has made a bit of a reputation for himself, and I had to go a bit out of my comfort zone and contact a few friends to find information on him. At this point, Diana takes out a small piece of parchment from under her coat and slides it over the table towards Adana. The ripped top and the word "Wanted" in bold letters indicate this was a poster torn off from a wall or a tree. On it is a drawing of a middle-aged, rough-looking man with short hair and stubble. Diana taps on the piece of paper a few times with her pipe, leaving a bit of soot on it. That's the one. After compiling everything I found on him, I discovered that an old acquaintance of mine has specific and recent information on Tobias. I have not talked to him, but you would be able to visit him personally, and after you mention my name, he will tell you the information he possesses. His name is... Before Diana has a chance to say anything else, the door to the inn very quickly and with a bit of a squeak swings open. Both glance towards the door to see three individuals walk in. The group is led by a mature woman adorned in black, expensive clothes in a silver lining. Her hair is deep brown and long, framing the smooth, pale face. She storms into the inn headed straight towards the bar. The other two individuals that resemble personal bodyguards take position next to the entrance. Both are again female, one dwarf and one human, with dark skin and shaved heads. The sound of heels against the wooden floor echo throughout the room as the woman in black walks towards the bar. The one patron that was sitting around it takes their drink and occupies another table. In a hushed voice, Diana speaks up.
Well, that's not good. See, she is Lady Malarla Neahand, one of the many siblings of House Neahand, who are, let's say, a curious bunch. They possess tremendous influence and power in the city, but they do not use that power in a noble manner. Just make sure to stay away from them. You don't want any trouble.
Adana has not diverted her glance from Lady Malarla since the moment she entered, and continues looking at her and her bodyguards. She notes something curious about the latter. For bodyguards, they wear no armor, carry no weapons, nor do they look particularly strong. Their facial expression is stone cold with a 1,000-mile glance. As for Lady Malarla, the atmosphere of the room changed the moment she entered, and is occasionally looking around at other patrons, who immediately divert their glances off her. While examining Lady Malarla, both of their eyes meet. Being used to people being intimidated by her sheer presence, she is surprised to see Adana still looking at her. This frustrates her even more, and with a fury in her eyes, she slams down her drink onto the table and raises her arm to call the bodyguards. With a grind against the floor, the chair is pushed back, and she storms towards the table where Adana and Diana are sitting, flanked by the two enforcers.
"What do you want, girl?"
says Lady Malarla, while her eyes narrow for a few seconds to get a better look of the person in front of her.
"You're not from here, are you? What's your name?"
Why should I tell you my name?
Calmly replies Adana, frustrating her even more.
"Because I said so."
Nothing to worry about, Lady Malala, says Diana as she leans forward, drawing away her attention. We're just taking a rest. Lady Malarla stares down at Diana's calm face for a few moments, snorts angrily, turns around and makes her way towards the exit, flipping a gold piece towards the bartender and muttering something under her breath. The bodyguards follow her, but not before giving both Adana and Diana a stern look. The few seconds that follow her exit pass in complete silence, after which everyone goes back to their business. Try not to divert unnecessary attention. You don't want to get involved in all the shady dealings that surround their house, whispers Diana, still leaning forward on the table. She takes a breath from her pipe and continues, now having leaned back. Right, so where was I? His name is Ulfric Cromor, a dwarf, the owner and bartender of the establishment called Cromor's Inn and Tavern. When you approach him, make sure to mention the following words, which are a passcode that will let him know you are there not just for food. The words are, "The bird has sung its song." Diana takes a long pause, indicating that she's done telling her part.
How is he connected with the person I'm trying to find?
Asks Adana, to which Diana immediately responds. Tobias seems to be a local of Saerloon, so he has been around for a while. Ulfric possesses information about him that I don't.
Are you sure he will share it with me?
He will, if you mention my name and the passcode. Probably a good idea to grab a drink as well, just to not upset him too much that you're coming from me. Diana smirks as she says those words, takes a deep breath from her pipe, and continues. Make sure you don't throw around names carelessly. It may be worthwhile to adopt a different one while you're in the city. You never know who can be overhearing conversations. Other than that, it should be alright. At which Adana nods in response. Diana leans slightly forward on her chair. May I ask, who is this person that you're seeking? Is it some kind of a rival that you're trying to eliminate?
I choose not to answer your question as it is personal,
responds Adana. I am in no condition to demand anything from you, I understand. After a few moments of silence, Diana stands up from her chair and straightens her clothes. Well, I'll get going then. Should you have any other questions, be here at the same time tomorrow, and I'll approach. Diana salutes and, turning on her heels, heads out of the inn into the busy streets of Saerloon. Part 2. The Search. Trying to lose as little time as she can, Adana pays for the meal, gathers her immediate supplies and tools, and heads off to find Ulfric Cromor. Upon arrival, even from the outside, she picks up sounds of muffled cheering, which indicate that there are quite a few people there despite it still being afternoon. Going in, all the various smells and sounds hit her like an ogre's fist. People are shouting and clinking of glasses is heard, while the smell of dried alcohol on the ground and sweat is definitely unpleasant. The most notable feature of the tavern is the far corner, where most of the crowd is gathered into some sort of a small brawl between two opponents. Two humans are duking it out against each other, while the audience bets on one or the other combatant. Chaos has taken over that corner of the tavern. The rest of the patrons do not seem to mind the shouting and cheering, visibly used to the situation happening probably daily. Moving forward, Adana sees an elder dwarf behind the bar. He is about 4 feet tall, stout, and heavily built, with a nicely braided long beard and short cut hair. Ulfric has an apron on, which is slightly bloody from the meat he has just finished cutting. Adana waits until the bartender serves a few people before approaching. She silently grabs a chair and sits next to him. Ulfric takes note of her too late, and her sudden appearance causes him to jump on his seat.
Be careful next time. How can I help you? Welcome to Cromor's Inn and Tavern.
I am Adana. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm Ulfric Cromor.
I'd like to have a drink.
Alright, would you like ale? Maybe wine?
There is a pause while Adana thinks.
With what?
I'd prefer wine.
Alright.
Ulfric looks around a bit, gets a small cup, fills it from one of the barrels behind him, puts it down and says,
There you go. That'll be a gold piece from you.
Thank you.
Adana passes a gold coin to him, which he pockets, and tries to find a way to start a conversation with him.
I am Diana's friend. Does this name say anything to you?
Diana? I know a few Dianas, yeah.
Well, see, the bird has sung its song.
There is realization in Ulfric's eyes.
Diana. I see. Alright, grab your drink. Let's go to one of the back rooms so we are not overheard.
He calls out to one of the barmaids.
Matilda, come and take the bartender spot, would you? Thanks.
After which he leads Adana through the door behind the bar, to a corridor, then through another door into a small room. It is plainly furnished, a small table with 4 chairs around it, a cupboard, a small stand. Several barrels are lined up in one corner. Ulfric takes a seat and waits for Adana to sit down as well before beginning.
Right, so, that Tobias guy, our friend, comes to my place occasionally, shady type, mostly to get drunk. Since my tavern is not an expensive one, many folks come and go, including him.
Ulfric takes a moment to pause and think of how to organize his thoughts before continuing.
Once, when he was really drunk, I overheard him talking about some figure that he was working on for special occasions. He himself never really learned of that person's name, but the money was good, so he didn't really care. I wasn't paying attention to the whole conversation, so I can't recall much more. This was about 10 days ago, and I have not seen the lad afterward. He usually comes in once every 2 or 3 days, but he has been absent, so that's curious as well. Last I know, he was skulking around in the cemetery some 3 days ago, in the night. I guess you can try checking those parts.
So you only know that the last time he was in the cemetery. No more information?
Not really, unfortunately,
Replies Ulfric.
I'm pretty sure that was the guy you're looking for, so I'm guessing you'll be able to find... People don't skulk around in a cemetery, especially at night. That's weird on its own right.
Did you see him?
Not me specifically. 2 others noticed Tobias enter the cemetery, but the guy never came out of the cemetery for quite a few hours. One of those 2 went inside to check. The one outside saw something shift there, which was followed by a cry. The one who entered never came out. The one left came back and told me the story.
How was Tobias dressed?
As far as I was told, he was wearing a cloak and a hood, which disguised pretty much everything else he would be wearing underneath.
Alright, in that case I will check out the cemetery at night.
Ulfric then describes the location of the cemetery, which is on the southwestern quadrant of Saerloon. After several more leading questions, Ulfric gives a description of Tobias as best he can, but is unable to recall any additional information. Adana thanks him for his trouble, and the two head out of the room. They exit into the tavern chamber just in time for the brawl to end in a loud crack and knockout, as the unconscious body of one of the combatants drops on the nearby chair with a loud thump, breaking it into several pieces. The whole crowd cheers again, louder than ever, though some people are pretty bummed and frustrated about it, having bet on the loser. Adana makes her way towards the exit, and just as the merry atmosphere in the tavern subsides, bumps into a human who was standing on her path. He is flanked by a human on each side. All of them have their arms crossed. The middle one takes a step forward, chest puffed up. I haven't seen your green face around in these parts. What do you want?
I want to exit the establishment,
replies Adana calmly. Who let you do that? Responds the ruffian with a smirk.
Why? Is it illegal to exit this place?
You better not go around and throw words at me, lady. Both the seeming leader and the other two start to get frustrated by Adana's presence, possibly even more so by the calmness and ignorance of their insults. One of them is clasping his fist to his hand. None of the patrons are paying attention or trying to assist in any way, preferring to not meddle with the affairs of the ruffians. There is a fight brewing.
Guys, I don't have anything towards you. I just want to walk.
Before Adana can even finish her sentence, one of the bullies quickly steps forward and shoves her back, as the other two keep slowly advancing. You better give us all you have, or else it's gonna hurt when we get it. Adana picks up one of the broken chair's legs, a small piece of wood the size of a club, and takes a step forward. Her calm expression fades and one of anger appears, which, supported by her orcish features and almost a foot taller height, gives her an intimidating look.
Clear my path, or you will become my path.
The most eager of the ruffians that was hitting his two hands together stops and takes a step back, clearly intimidated by her presence. The leader, however, grabs him by the arm and pulls him forward. Chill out. She ain't gonna do nothing to us. As he says that, he throws his arm around and comes in with a haymaker, aiming straight for Adana's chin. Adana pulls herself back just in time for the punch to miss her. She takes the opening to strike at the leader with the club to his arm. There's a crack, as something in his arm clearly dislodges. One of the other ruffians supports their friend, so the latter doesn't fall while grunting and breathing heavily, clutching his arm. Without losing momentum, Adana swings the club around and comes in to finish the attack, but the third ruffian steps forward and blocks it off. The leader shakes his head and pushes the one that's holding him back and approaches Adana to get his revenge. However, his hurting arm doesn't allow him to get a good angle at her, who just steps to the side of the attack. The other two move in as well, and using the 2-1 advantage they have, manage to distract Adana with one attack so the other one connects to her lower torso. Adana turns around and bashes the leader to his back, sending him sliding on the wooden floor. Arms out, he drops to the ground, unconscious and drooling a combination of spit and blood. The two look at each other with surprise and fear, realizing the opponent they are facing is far more capable than they expected. They turn around and run out of the room, leaving their unconscious friend alone on the ground. At this point, clanking of chain and metal notifies Adana of the approaching city guard. Ulfric, seeing the situation, goes around the bar to greet the guards. Adana steps back, blending in with the crowd. 3 guards, or helms as they are called in Saerloon, clad in chainmail shirts and armed with small shields and arming swords, rush into the establishment. One of them has a metallic shoulder pad, which signifies his higher rank. He gestures to one of the guards to check out the unconscious body, then stands in the middle of the room and calls out to the local patrons. What happened here? Blasted scum, as they vanish into the outside crowd. Ulfric turns around, meaning to say something, but stops halfway through his first word as Adana is nowhere to be seen. The latter has already exited into the late afternoon, in the humid Saerloon. She makes her way towards the cemetery to see what she can find there. It spans a full block of the city, all covered in tall iron bars with spikes on top, and several gates as the exits. Numerous tombstones and stone coffins are scattered all around the area, ranging from poor to exquisite make. Not many trees grow inside, and those that do seem weak and slightly withered, bent low over the many cobblestone paths. There is an occasional stone arch that frames the path, as well as thick rectangular columns, all seemingly serving no other but aesthetic purpose. Some of the columns have lanterns hanging on their sides to provide light during the night, and others have now familiar gargoyles perched on top of them, with their wings folded and grotesque jaws open, looking as if they will leap onto a trespasser at any moment. Being still late afternoon, people occasionally come and go, praying or mourning those they lost. But as the night grows closer, fewer and fewer people come in until there is no one left. The windows begin to light up as most of the population goes home, and the street lanterns are lit by the city's caretakers. But the cemetery stays enveloped in the dark, as if it is sucking out and devouring the light around it. The lanterns inside stay unlit. After about 30 minutes of waiting past sundown, and seeing no one is coming, Adana heads towards the almost stained steel bars. The metal gate creaks as she enters the dark and cold cemetery. Fortunately, her orcish heritage gives her the ability to see in the darkness, though not for very far, and only in the shades of grey. She begins by looking around for anyone that may still be within the cemetery's bounds. The 20-minute search ends with an old withered tree accidentally poking into Adana's eye, which hurts for the following few moments or so, not allowing her to concentrate. While she does not find anyone within the cemetery, she does notice that some of the cheaper graves, where the carcass is put in a coffin, which in turn into the ground and covered by dirt, have the said dirt disturbed. It is relatively fresh, 1 or 2 days old. There is no real connection between the names of the tombstones, and the reason for this eludes Adana. However, one thing is clear: someone has robbed the cemetery a few days ago. While examining one of the graves and its vicinity, there is a small rush of wind behind Adana. She immediately turns around, eyes scanning the area for potential threats, but there seems to be no one there. She goes back to whatever she was doing, now warier of her surroundings. After a bit of looking around, Adana spots dirt footsteps, a single pair, going away from the grave along the pavement of the cemetery. She starts to follow them. Again, there is shifting behind her. She spins around, hands on the hilts of her 2 short swords. The path that she came from is flanked to the right with a leafless tree, and slightly closer to the left with a stone column. A lantern hangs from its side, unlit. A gargoyle is perched atop it, its physique hunched, wings folded, tongue out, teeth exposed, looking immediately under it as if hunting its prey. There is silence for several seconds as Adana still keeps looking around to spot any movement, but there is none. She turns around and there is again the same shifting of air. She spins back, this time unsheathing both her swords and holding them in front of her. There is still silence. One thing is odd though. The gargoyle Adana saw perched on top of the stone column is missing. There's a flap of wings above her. Adana looks up just in time to hear a terrible screech and a large shape plummeting towards her. She rolls away as the human-sized gargoyle hits the pavement, possibly cracking it. The gargoyle looks at Adana for a second before exposing sharp claws and rushing towards her. Adana steps to the side as the gargoyle's claws miss her by an inch. She throws her arm forward and manages to land a hit at the gargoyle's shoulder. The sword digs into its flesh, which growls in pain. It seems like on the outside this creature's skin looks like stone, but it is definitely softer in reality. The gargoyle rushes forward, dodging a stab from Adana, and exposing its sharp teeth comes in for a bite. Fortunately, she ducks down and the gargoyle jumps over her. However, one of the claws does get a scratch on Adana. Both have drawn blood from their opponent. Adana comes in with another set of quick attacks, and as much as the gargoyle is trying to defend and parry, several of those get through, wounding the creature further. At this point, an ordinary town's guard would have been incapacitated, but the gargoyle still seems able to fight. Dark, slightly viscous blood and ichor starts to trickle down its wound, slowly evaporating in the air. It rushes in to try and get a grasp on Adana again, this time managing to do so, taking advantage of the instant when Adana was puzzled at the toughness of the creature. The claws dig deep into her body, pinning her down. The maw opens again to come in with a bite. Adana puts her blades in front of the mouth to try and defend herself, which she does, though the tip of the fangs still sink half an inch into her body. The gargoyle is then pushed back as Adana gathers up her strength, her rage slowly building up inside her. There is now a smell of human blood in the air. The same type of exchanges continue a couple more times. Now being more prepared for what the creature can offer, Adana manages to dodge most of the attacks, though some of them do get her. Just as the gargoyle jumps up to finish Adana off, she ducks down and slashes at the gargoyle from underneath. It drops on the ground and slides a few feet across it. Just as it is trying to gather its strength to rise, Adana jumps up and comes down with a sword in both her hands, stabbing the creature through its body. Dust kicks up. The creature's body starts to melt into the same viscous dark ichor, and within moments' notice it evaporates into the air until there is no trace of the gargoyle left. Adana takes a step back and sits down under the nearby tree, taking a deep breath. She pulls her backpack close to her and takes out a few old bandages, tending to her wounds. She takes a small bite from her traveling rations, jerky to be exact, and gathering the remaining strength, gets up to continue her investigation. After a bit of examination, she discovers that the footprints are at most a day old. They exit the cemetery and seem to head across the road towards one of the apartment buildings. Adana follows them around the building to its back side and comes upon a small set of stairs that descend into the ground, ending with a locked wooden door, which most likely leads to some kind of a basement. Determined to find her quarry, Adana takes out her lockpicks and begins fiddling with the lock. She has done this on numerous occasions, and this lock is no different. Only about 30 seconds pass before it clicks open. The door creaks as Adana pushes it forward, revealing another staircase that descends into the darkness. Part 3. The Execution. Without a single sound, Adana descends the first flight of stairs that stop and turn left. She peeks around the corner to see where the second flight leads to. This next one seems to be the last as the stairs meet the floor of the basement. A lit lamp hangs above the landing, the only source of light in the vicinity. The landing turns left yet again, this time opening into some kind of a room. She follows down, pushes herself against the wall, and peeks again. The stench of rotten flesh becomes stronger and stronger as she descends. The square room that opens up before her holds a few barrels and crates, not many. To the left of her is the source of the smell. Piled up under the far wall are quite a few old corpses of people, their number matching that of the disturbed graves. Some of them are skeletons, others still have bits and pieces of flesh left on them. There is a lot of dirt all around them, proving that indeed these bodies have been robbed from the cemetery. To the right of her is a 10-foot wide opening that leads into another room. Light, weaker than from the lamp, comes from the inside. Adana moves towards the opening to look around its corner. The lamp begins to cast a shadow across the floor. Excitement builds up in her chest, the fact that she may be so close to her prey, and she neglects that her shadow may give her away. She sees a small lantern set on a large crate across the room, which sheds the light she noticed earlier. Unlike the previous room, this one seems to have been repurposed into a makeshift personal space, with makeshift furniture made of repurposed crates. A smaller one near the lantern looks like it is used as a chair, the larger crate serving as a table. A book is lying near the lantern. A bit of food is scattered across the crate's surface. A set of 3 medium-sized crates to the side have a piece of cloth thrown over them, creating a bed. There's a barrel which is against the same wall that the entrance is, and it has a few knives sticking out of its side. Otherwise, the room seems empty. As Adana moves closer to inspect the knives and then the book, there is a sound of footsteps behind her. She turns around to see a clothed shape with a hood on, obscuring the person's facial features. Both take note of each other. The man sprints out of the room and Adana gives chase. Before the man can reach the entrance, however, Adana shouts towards him in an attempt to stop him.
Hey, I came here to talk to you. Our leader assigned us to do something together.
The man stops and mumbles under his breath in frustration. Leader, damn it. He stops in his place and Adana catches up to him. She beckons him to come downstairs, which the man does. Stepping into the light, Tobias lowers his hood, and his facial features are now visible. He is in his mid-30s, has short hair and stubble, a few small scars on his face, and generally rough and square features. Both of them head towards the living space, and each sit on a small crate.
Adana, in an attempt to find additional information about him, starts a conversation.
Do you live alone here?
Yeah, I do.
Says Tobias with a nod.
And what do you do for our boss?
My task is to dig out some corpses from the cemetery. Don't even know what that's even for, to be honest. The pay was substantial for the job, so I decided to take it.
I see. How long have you been doing that?
Tobias thinks for himself for a moment before answering.
This specific job has been going on for about 20 days, if not more. But I've worked with the boss for at least 12 years now.
What do you do with those bodies?
I take them to this basement, and then other people come and take them somewhere else.
Understandable. And when was the last time that you saw the leader?
Let's see, about 10 days ago, I think.
And where?
It was about 2 blocks north from here.
When you are expecting to have another meeting?
I'm supposed to wait here for whoever is gonna come to grab the dead bodies. I might see her at that point, though that hasn't been the case yet. I usually only meet her when she gives me the job, so I don't expect to see her anytime soon.
Well, she said that we are going to work together, but she didn't mention what our task is specifically. We need to meet her.
I see. Did she give you any ways of contacting her?
No, unfortunately. Maybe we can wait for the person who will come and get the bodies?
There is a pause as both of them lean back against the wall. Eventually, Tobias picks up.
So, what's your name? I noticed we haven't introduced ourselves yet.
I'm Jessica Byton.
Tobias Noak. Pleasure to meet you.
Replies Tobias.
What do you do for the boss? What's your job?
Adana thinks for herself for a moment before answering.
I travel across Sembia and find new workers for her.
Well, I'm already a worker.
Says Tobias with a chuckle.
Do you want some jerky? I've got some in here.
Adana declines the offer.
I guess we can wait then, until those people come.
The following hour or so passes in a casual conversation between the two. Tobias tells Adana that he mostly works as a bounty hunter, and has traveled across most of Sembia, in addition to visiting Cormir a few times. Cormir is the neighbor kingdom of Sembia, and the two have had several wars in the past. Adana, not to arouse suspicion, also tells some stories about her. Well, according to her, she has been living in Saerloon for about 2 months, but her hometown has been Saerloon, which is another large city in Sembia. She has been living alone for most of her life and picked up many tricks and skills in order to survive. With the help of one of her friends, she found their current boss and has been an agent ever since. A knock on the door upstairs notifies both that someone has arrived. Tobias gets up to open it, while Adana waits downstairs. The creaking of the door opening is heard, as well as footsteps descending. 2 tough, muscular human males come down, and upon noticing the bodies, make their way towards them and start moving them upstairs. Both of them have a tattoo on their left shoulder of a black eye with a black tear. Tobias tries to talk to them, but they completely ignore him. Adana approaches one of them and asks whether they saw their leader or have any information about her or not. The enforcer narrows his eyes slightly at her, but nevertheless responds.
I have seen the leader yesterday. Why are you asking?
We need to meet her for a specific task, and we thought that you should give us information about our meeting, where and how we can meet her.
I don't know anything about it, but you can go upstairs and talk to the Spymaster.
Tobias and Adana make their way upstairs. Near the entrance to the basement stands a wagon with 2 horses in front of it, which is being loaded with the dug-out bodies. Next to the cart stands a man wearing black robes of good make. He has the same symbol on a metallic badge on his chest. He has pale skin and a bald head, but the most notable feature is the long-heeled scar diagonally across his lower face and neck. Tobias nudges Adana, confirming her suspicion that it should be the Spymaster the enforcers were talking about. Both approach him, and noticing it, the Spymaster slightly raises his head and waits for them to come.
Tobias, good to see you.
Begins the Spymaster, his voice almost hissing in the cool night air.
Good evening, Spymaster.
Replies Tobias, taking a slight bow. The Spymaster gestures with one of his hands towards Adana, but is still looking at Tobias.
Who is this? She's,
Tobias stutters.
I am a distant operative that travels around Sembia quite a lot. That is the reason that you don't know me.
Answers Adana instead of Tobias with a proud tone. The Spymaster narrows his eyes but seems to believe her story.
alright. What do you want?
Tobias and I need to meet our leader to discuss what our future assignment is specifically.
The Spymaster does not respond immediately. He looks both Adana and Tobias up and down.
Let me confirm this.
As he says that, he brings one of his hands in front of him and starts to draw something in the air with his finger. It leaves a ghostly bluish trace as the Spymaster draws the arcane sigil, and his eyes flash with bright blue light.
My lady, Tobias Nook, along with one other operative, wishes to speak with you. Should I arrange a meeting? If so, when and where?
The Spymaster has been talking to someone else this entire time, and his eyes have not lost their blue glow. After he says the last word out loud, several seconds pass before the blue sigil in the air and the light in the Spymaster's eyes both fade, and his eyes return to their normal condition.
Our lady will be here shortly. Expect her arrival. She mentioned she has something to discuss with you as well, Tobias. Meanwhile, we will be on our way.
As the Spymaster says this, both Adana and Tobias take note that the bodies have all been removed into the wagon, and the two enforcers were waiting for the Spymaster. The latter nods to both and takes a seat in front of the wagon. One of the enforcers slaps onto the reins, and the wagon heads off towards the dark streets of Saerloon. Adana and Tobias head downstairs to wait for their upcoming meeting. She continues the conversations they have been having before the enforcers and the Spymaster arrived.
10 years ago, you had a specific task in Cormier from our leader.
Tobias confirms the statement with a nod.
Do you remember it?
He scratches his head, seemingly trying to remember it.
I believe it was some kind of a bounty. I don't remember who it was, though.
Several days ago, while meeting our leader, she mentioned she trusts you quite a lot, since the tasks you have completed for her were quite important.
Tobias rights himself at this, slightly more proud of himself.
Your task in Cormier was to assassinate a general. She hasn't told me the details of it, but I got very interested in the story and figured I might ask you instead.
Tobias's eyes flash with the realization.
Right, I do remember it. It was a hard one, that job. Back in the day, when I was in Cormier, it took a while until I managed to sneak into the general's estate. You know, lots of guards here and there. I snuck in through the door, went upstairs, found the one where the general was sleeping, and, pretty straightforward, dagger through the throat kind of deal. And I was away.
Why the general, though? Was he our leader's enemy?
Possibly, I don't know. The leader was quite pleased with the job. I'm guessing since our leader is allied with Sembia, and Sembia and Cormier don't like each other, eliminating one of their generals would help progress the war that happened 2 years after that.
Throughout the whole conversation, Tobias was talking about everything in a manner as if he was remembering childhood memories, light-hearted and silly. Adana, on the other hand, was staying calm, focused, and a bit too serious for an outside viewer. Her rage has been swelling ever since this talk began, and she has been having a hard time disguising it. Tobias reaches out to the book and begins to continue reading from the point he left off. Unbeknownst to him, Adana has already unsheathed one of her daggers. Before a moment's notice, hiding her arm behind the book, she thrusts at Tobias, stabbing him right at the throat. Blood starts to trickle down the wound in his mouth, as Tobias doesn't even get a chance to make a single sound. Adana moves Tobias's body inside one of the crates, begins to clear the mess, before she hears a muffled shout from the outside. Adana covers her face with a piece of cloth to disguise her identity, heads upstairs, and opens the door. Standing several feet away from the ledge is a figure adorned in black expensive cloth with a silver lining. The woman's hair is deep brown and long, framing the smooth, pale face. She takes notice of the door opening and gives a puzzled look at Adana, who stands at the threshold.
Who are you? And where's Tobias?
Tobias is inside and is waiting for us.
Then go and fetch him. I don't have much time to spare.
Actually, Tobias and I have prepared a small meal for the three of us. We invite you to come downstairs.
Lady Malala looks at Adana quizzically for a moment before responding.
Well, I have already had an evening meal, and I'm not hungry. Bring Tobias here.
Well, you can have a small drink while we discuss everything round the table.
I am saying this for the last time. I am not interested in going down to that dirty hole of yours. Bring Tobias here.
The last sentence comes out with a slow rise of voice as Lady Malala is getting impatient.
Let me call him then,
responds Adana, making her way towards the ledge. Lady Malala waves her hand, signifying her complete disinterest in this. She is nevertheless paying attention to the events transpiring. Adana shouts out down the open doorway, calling Tobias upstairs. Unsurprisingly, there is no response. Adana turns around towards Lady Malala.
He's not responding. Maybe something happened?
Possibly.
Replies Lady Malala, making her way towards the edge of the ledge.
Tobias Snoke, come up here. I know you can hear me.
Adana takes the opportunity to move slightly behind her. She quickly draws her dagger and strikes Lady Malala at her temple with the dagger's pommel, knocking her unconscious. She slowly wakes up in the basement, her hands and arms tied. In front of her sits Adana, her face revealed, observing her. Lady Malala begins to twitch and move, trying to break free, but after a few moments sees Adana's face and seizes her attempts.
You! I knew you were up to no good. What do you want?
Hisses the captive like a cornered snake. Adana stays quiet for a while, completely ignoring Lady Malala's insults and threats.
It was 10 years ago, on a peaceful night. I was sleeping. My father was with me, and we were happy. But the happiness of our family didn't satisfy someone. They knew that my father was a strong and skillful general, able to change the outcomes of wars. They didn't want that. And that someone, who was a woman, decided to send an assassin to kill the legendary general. 10 years passed, but every single moment I remember the glance of that assassin who ended the life of my father. And here, today, you are in front of me, the person responsible for taking away all the happiness in my life. I waited for this day for 10 years. But I don't want to kill you, because that would be a gift from me to you.
Without saying anything else, Adana gets up and begins to pack her things, making sure to not leave anything sharp behind. Lady Malala is still taken aback and is unable to respond. As Adana begins to make her leave, she starts to twitch again, pleading for Adana to let her go.
Wait! Don't go! I can give you anything! You hear that? Money, land, power, whatever you want. Just don't leave me here.
Adana walks up the stairs, locks the door, and goes on her way, as Lady Malala's screams still continue muffled through the layers of stone and dirt.